Yes, thanks for calling back. I appreciate it.
No
Yeah, I know you were quoted in our local paper here in Sioux Falls regarding this Augustana case, so I probably don't have to fill you in on the details of it. So this is reasonably common, these types of cases coming up that you have seen across the country?
In cases, if you're referring to cases where the student...
Where the university kind of trumps or has a student expelled for being accused of a crime prior to it going through the court system.
Oh, most certainly, most certainly. In 2011, the Department of Education issued what it called a guidance letter, what some call the Dear Colleague letter, and that basically through that it has been trying to compel, and quite successfully, compelling roughly 6,000 and more colleges and universities to basically set up their own type of in-house investigative and adjudicatory system, which would, by which they were required to find, students either not responsible or responsible, guilty or innocent, or not guilty, if you will, of felony sexual assault cases. And they were required to come to their own, conduct their own independent investigation, independent of the police, although they can work with them. And so they're also required to abide by a strict timetable, much stricter than the criminal justice system would. So they have, I think it's about 60 days roughly, according to the guidance letter that the Department of Education sent in April of 2011. Whereas, and the only way they can get around that is if there are some kind of extreme or extenuating circumstances. So yeah, I mean it's definitely an issue. We have roughly 89 cases that we have in our. I'm not sure if you saw our the lawsuits database that I maintain.
Is it on your website?
Yeah, I'll send you a link right now, actually.
Okay, perfect.
So that you can see it. And anyway, we're talking about 89 cases where students who they claim were wrongly punished or in some form by universities where they didn't receive due process or equal protection, or where the university may have breached their contract or said something that was defamatory without the proper evidence. There are cases where students have come back and sued the university, and sometimes the students are seeking a stay of the suspension or a stay of the expulsion, and sometimes they're successful, although I have no records of cases where students were successful by simply appealing to the good graces of the university alone without a written order by a judge.
So what, in the case where universities are looking at these Title IX requirements and have an obligation to make a campus safe for everyone, what are some alternatives that can be done other than the steps that are being taken in these 89 or so cases?
Well, ultimately, what has to be done is that we have to make sure that this is felony sexual assault accusations are primarily the domain of the criminal justice system. Now, universities should work with the criminal justice system in getting accusers to come forward if they feel that they were genuinely victimized. They most certainly should not deter students who believe themselves to be victims of a crime from going to the police. And perhaps in the past there were some cases of that, but the current system is just there's too little in the way. Administrators simply don't have the training, the competence, the role to do that sort of thing. So eventually we're going to have to get either colleges and universities fighting back against the Department of Education, which is not going to happen anytime soon, I don't think, or we're going to have to do what we're currently doing now, go through the legal system and exert pressure on the Department of Education in other ways.
Looking through this, some of the files that were sent in on this suit, the attorney for the person accused quotes a part of this educational panel deciding its fate, and I'm going to just read it to you real quickly because I want to get your opinion on it. It says, against the strong evidence supporting named Black Doubt's allegations, we have no denial from Coe, nor do we have an explanation from him as to how he obtained consent. The only conclusion this investigation can draw is that if he had obtained consent, he would have shared how he done so. Absent that explanation in the face of the credible and corroborated allegations by name blacked out, the preponderance of evidence supports the finding that Coe violated all policies in issue by failing to obtain consent and using force. How do you view the language and the logic in that investigation?
I think it is disconcerting, definitely, the perspective that the burden of proof is on the accused to demonstrate how they didn't commit a crime. That's something that I think that a university has really no place imposing that kind of burden on the person accused of something. And furthermore, the preponderance of evidence standard, the very low standard of evidence that these universities are using, I think it's just unfit for that kind of accusation, because for universities to be proclaiming in ways that the broader public will interpret as the student being guilty of sexual assault, I think that universities simply have no business using that low standard, especially when they have no real legal competence or sufficient training to be saddling students with such labels before the public. I think it's just, that's what I think about it.
Okay. What, besides your organization, I haven't even had a chance to read it. I was just pulling it up when you called, actually. I saw an article written by, it looks like by Stephen Hendrick in this, I believe this is the University of Kentucky Law Review. You're familiar with that?
I'm definitely familiar with Stephen Hendrick. He may have, I'm not sure if he quoted me in that, but I know that he was writing for several legal journals.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I was barely into the introduction when you called, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But Will, are there any other organizations or people in particular that are taking on this issue across the country?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would recommend the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education at thefire.org. I would also recommend an organization.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that
Sure.
that website?
Sure, it's thefire.org.
The Fire?
Mm-hmm, thefire.org, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. And then there is also Families Advocating Campus Equality, and I believe that's facecampusequality.org.
Okay.
And that is actually an organization created by mothers whose sons have been wrongly accused. And yeah, they're a very professional organization. I would highly recommend them as well. If you're also interested, I'd have to throw out a bone to the National Coalition for Men Carolinas chapter. Let's see. They are ncfmcarolinas.com.
Okay.
And those are, just to kind of give you kind of a rundown of what some of these organizations do, the FIRE.org, Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, they do lobbying work. They also have a lawyer network. I also have an attorney network, and they help people find attorneys to take up their cases. So the organization Families Advocating Campus Equality, otherwise known as FACE, they mainly work with individual families, and they also work for legislative change as well. They also do lobbying. And NCFM, National Coalition for Men Carolinas, they primarily just work with families, although they have done some other lobbying work as well, actually some one-on-one lobbying with certain people behind the scenes. So if you feel like contacting, feel free to contact those as well.
Okay. And what are there any cases in particular? I mean, we have this one local here that's catching some eyes here in South Dakota. Are there any ones across the country that have kind of become a little more out there or more publicized on this issue, or they're kind of like the typical case that is kind of being a symbol for this movement?
Well, I would actually there's a somewhat of a similar case that you may want to draw a parallel to, and that is a case at the University of Southern California. It was filed either early or mid 2015. The attorney for that is Mark Hathaway, and that's in my lawsuits database. That was one case
Okay.
where the plaintiff's, the student's expulsion was stayed by a court order from the judge. So that's a case where they did successfully get a stay of the expulsion, but again, that only came by a written order from the judge. The that case is still pending as far as like the resolution of all the charges. There was another case out of the University of California at San Diego. Oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, San Diego State University, not UC San Diego.
Okay.
The attorney for that is Dominic Lombardo. That's one where the university lifted their suspension against the student, but there's also a case pending. Now that was, of course, as a result of the legal action that the student took. So we're seeing more success with lifting suspensions and expulsions when there is a court order to do so. We're seeing more success with that over the last year, I would say, than we have seen in the 2 to 3 years prior. But really, what I think we're going to see over the next, I think we're going to start to see these cases snowball. But right now, we're still kind of gathering momentum on these cases.
Okay. Are there any other things we haven't talked about on this issue that you think are important?
Well, I mean, I can talk to you here for for quite a while, but I think we've touched on a lot of the pertinent issues and regarding this case at Augustana University.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I might. What's the best number to reach you in case I have some follow-up questions? Probably not. We have a pickup from our members, so we're probably going to be doing this on a wider scale, probably sometime tomorrow or so. Mm-hmm. But if there's a number I could reach you at in case I have some follow-ups.
Sure. Yeah. Let me go ahead and give you my cell. It is.
Okay. And what is your title with the organization?
Founder and director.
Founder and director.
Although in my email it says founder and publisher in my signature, but I'm going to be updating that soon.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, sounds good. Well, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good day.
Right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.